Chris, we're wrapping up our day here right now, and it was a long one at that. You know, we got started at about 7 o'clock this morning, fished really hard for the first few hours of the day, saw plenty of fish, but they just weren't biting. But you mentioned something very specific when we were struggling this morning. You said that when the sun gets high and it starts to get a little bit of ripple of wind on top of the water, these fish should go. And what happened?
It worked out like it has before. I mean, we saw a lot of fish, and there was not a breath of wind. These fish were cruising, and then as the day came along, we got a little bit of chop to the surface.
Right.
Water temperature came up, and so did the bite.
When we found those fish, we stayed on them. And that's one thing that's really important to keep in consideration too. Don't leave fish to find fish. And we fished the same 500-yard stretch of bank almost the entire day.
Right. I mean, you got bit on the second cast this morning.
Yeah, true.
And we went down the bank, saw fish. We moved to the other side of the lake, came down, saw a couple fish, but not many for the amount of water we covered.
Right.
We came back midday, and you got bit and started fishing that same bank, and we made it at about 50, 60 yards. Boom, there was a fish. There was another fish.
Yeah.
So we found a group of fish, and we stuck with them, and we ended up having a pretty good day.
You know, we had a bunch of rods in the boat, as most bass anglers typically do, but we really only picked up two different types of baits. We fished the weightless Senko, this guy right here, and this one got all of our bites.
It did.
In fact, I even tried throwing a head on there to get it down when that wind picked up a little bit so I could feel a little bit better, get it down deeper off the front edge of those docks. And I only had one bite when I added the lead head to it. And everything else came on the weightless Senko. Now you were throwing a dipper and that Huddleston, this reaction style bait, and we were hucking and whining this thing almost all afternoon, and we didn't get bit on it either.
We did.
It was just all that weightless Senko.
The reason we tried that bait to begin with is we had a couple fish chase our Senkos back to the boat, right to the boat, reeling it in. So it looks like they wanted a moving bait there. It's kind of what they were showing us. So we picked up a swim bait and made those casts. Well, it didn't happen again. So we stuck with the bait that was getting bit.
Right.
And, we put our time in with it, and we got some fish out of the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I always like to do whenever I'm fishing, whether it's for bass, salmon, steelhead, trout, regardless, is I always look back on the day and say, what could I have done differently? And I don't think I would have played around with anything but a weightless Senko.
Right, and we saw some really good groups of fish up underneath willows in very shallow water. I mean, 3, 4, 5 fish together.
Right.
But they weren't biters. They're getting ready to spawn, and they're not thinking about eating, they're thinking about spawning. So those fish weren't really ready to go. We had to come out a little deeper, have some overhead cover, and we could get bit in that situation.
Sure.
So those are things we had to add together. Now, if I were to come out here and do it again tomorrow and try to take something away from today, I would look for more dogs.
Yeah.